Welcome back to my channel. Today we're taking a look at pH and EC and why it matters to your hydroponic system. Now, you might be starting out your hydroponic venture and you might be wondering what's pH, what's EC, why it matters to my hydroponic system. Well, this video is going to help break those terminologies down and help simplify things in order to help you become an expert hydroponic grower in no time. So hopefully by the end of this video you learned something new. And if you like the content of this video, hit the like button. So let's hop into it. Now, every 2 to 3 weeks, I do a nutrient flush, and it's important that you guys stay on top of that. Now, I have a 20-gallon reservoir tank here, and sometimes I do a partial 10-gallon flush, or sometimes I do a complete 20-gallon flush, and I usually replace that with a fresh nutrient makeup. Now, that all depends on the type of plants you're growing and the time of the year. And now you might have something like this. This is a all-in-one pH and EC reader. This is the Para PC60-Z. I did a review on this and I highly recommend this product, especially for beginner hydroponics growers. Or you might have something from Blue Labs. This is also a highly reputable brand, and especially for hydroponics grower. So getting back to what I was saying about pH and EC, pH basically measures the total dissolved hydrogens in your system, or basically the acidity level of your nutrient makeup, which is also important to stay on top of, which I'll explain later on. EC is a little bit more complicated. It measures the total dissolved solids that are conductive in your solution. So you might be getting like a perfectly good value for your EC, especially for the plants you're growing, and you can easily be deceived by that number. So not only does it measure your NPK levels and micronutrients in your system, but it also measures the salts in your system, which also contributes to your EC value. So in some cases, especially if you haven't replenished your system for a long time, you might be seeing a higher concentrated level of your salts, like sodium, versus your NPK value, and you can't tell from that, especially from your EC values. So that's why it's important to stay on top of your nutrient flush. And I'll explain later on how to adjust your EC values, especially for your hydroponic systems. Now, it's your job as a hydroponic grower to maintain the pH level of your hydroponic solution. pH plays a very important role in your plant's ability to uptake nutrients. So before we talk about the specific why pH is important, let's clarify some stuff about what it means for increase and decrease in pH. Now, I see a lot of articles and people confuse this. When we talk about increase in pH, we're referring to a increase in concentration of hydrogen concentration in your solution. So when it's increased in concentration, it's getting more acidic. From the scale from 1 to 14, with 7 being neutral, the increase is going from 7 to 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When referring to a decrease in pH concentration, we're referring to it getting more basic. It's going from 7, 8, 9, 10. When you look at the chart on the left, there's a whole wide range of nutrients that are essential for the growth of your plants. You already know about nitrogen, you already know about phosphorus, you already know about potassium. There's also calcium, magnesium, iron, boron, and a whole wide range of other micronutrients that are essential. But when you add pH into consideration, there's a certain narrow range which all these nutrients are able to solubilize in the solution. Because when you go outside this pH range of 5.5 to 6.5, some of these solutions start to precipitate out of solution which may cause a nutrient deficient for your plants. And that's why it's essential to keep it within this narrow range. Now, when you look at commercial growers, their range is even more specific and narrow. Sometimes they're usually around from 5.8 to 6.0, and they use more sophisticated instruments that self-regulate the pH. So generally, when you look at the pH, you want to keep it within this range or close to 6 as best as possible, because this increases the availabilities of all these nutrients and micronutrients available for your plants. So in regards to adjusting pH, there's a whole wide range of items that you can use to adjust pH. However, when it comes to hydroponics, you have to be really careful what you use. What I recommend is using either general hydroponics pH up or pH down, or if you have availability, get something like phosphoric acid or potassium hydroxide and make about 1 normal to 1.5 normal concentration of these. I'd rather you use these items to adjust your pH rather than household items like vinegar, lemon, or baking sodas. Some of these items can adversely affect the quality of your plants. For instance, like sodium bicarbonate. It's composed of sodium and bicarbonate. The sodium is really, when you increase the sodium level in your hydroponic solution, it can adversely affect your plants. Sodium basically is a poison for your plants, and you really want to avoid items that have sodium. So I'd rather you guys stick with something with general hydroponics up or down, or make your own solution that has phosphoric acid or potassium hydroxide. So when it comes to adjusting your pH, you have to be really careful. You don't want to add a whole gallon of pH up or pH down to your solution and overshoot your pH value that you're targeting by a long shot. What you really want to do is add a small amount and just test how much, like 1 ml contributes to the pH value. If it doesn't if it doesn't change the pH value that much, you could go in a little bit stronger, maybe go 3 mils, 5 mils, and see how much that contributes. So what I do is take like a targeted amount, maybe just pick 2 mils, add it to your solution, circulate, take a stick and stir it around, because that pH, those hydrogens have to disperse into the nutrient solution, and then take your pH reading. And then once you get a feel of how much that 2 mil contributes to your pH value, you can adjust it up or down accordingly till you get your desired pH value. Now that you got a clear understanding of what pH is, now let's move on to EC. EC basically measures your total dissolved charged ions in your solution. Now you may have heard of other terms like CF and TDS. In the sense, they're all related in that they all relate back to EC. CF is basically your conductive factor. It's basically a multiple of 10 of your EC in millisiemens units. TDS is a little bit more complicated. What separates TDS from EC is that EC measures the total charged ions. TDS measures the total dissolved particles, all the particles in your solution. Not only does it measure your charged ions, it measures your non-charged ions like sulfur and silicon, and it also measures your organics. The way you convert EC to TDS is that you multiply by a factor. So if you're using millisiemens, you multiply by a factor of 500 ppm or 700 ppm. And if you're using micro Siemens, you multiply by a factor of 0.5 and 0.7 respectively. Now when you start using TDS, it can get really complicated. If you look at my chart on the right, there's several conversion factors that are used for TDS. There's the 0.5 factor, there's the 0.55 factor, there's the 0.65 factor, and the 0.7 factor. Now, the most common factors are used are 0.5 and 0.7 in the hydroponics. The 0.5 is basically used in high salinity or high salty solutions with sodium chloride, and the 0.7 factor is used basically with high sodium potassium chloride solution. Now when you look up the general TDS values or the ppm values for your plant or the plants that you're growing, you gotta be careful, make sure to understand what conversion factor they're using. Are they using the 500 ppm conversion factor, or are they using the 700 ppm factor? And once you figure that out, you have to make sure that the pen or the EC instrument you're using is also adjusted to that correction factor. Now, if you're using something like this, like the Para PC60, if you look deep in the software, there is a section for conversion factor. Usually, what I see most of the time is set at the 0.7 factor or the 700 ppm factor. So, be careful when you start using TDS as a guideline for your hydroponics. So basically, if you want to make your life easier, stick with EC. It makes life much easier compared to TDS and CF, where you don't have to deal with all the unnecessary conversion factors. And especially that EC is a more international standard, whether you're from Australia, US, or China, or India, it's all the same. Now that we talked extensively about pH and EC, how do they relate to each other, and how do we adjust them throughout the growing season? In a sense, the pH does tell something about the EC, and the EC does tell something about the pH. In a general sense, what you want to do is get a general trend of how your pH and EC are changing throughout from like a weekly basis, maybe every 2 days or every 3 days. So in general sense, if you're seeing a general pattern, like let's say you're seeing your pH is increasing, where it's getting more acidic from like 6.0 down to 5.5 to 5, it's usually an indication that your plant is absorbing a lot more of the water than the nutrients. And in general sense, if you see this occurring, what you want to do is dilute your nutrient solution. It's an indication your nutrient solution is way too strong and the plant needs a lot more water. You usually see this when the weather is getting a lot more warmer and hotter, like probably in June in where I live. It's going from 60 degrees all the way to 70, 80. You'll see your pH increasing dramatically over time. So in this period, usually in June for me, I usually have to monitor the pH a lot more careful. Likewise, when the weather is getting a lot colder, your plant needs more of the nutrients. In a general sense, you'll see the pH decreasing during this time, where it's going from 6.0 to 6.5 to 7.0. In a general sense, your plant is absorbing a lot more of the nutrients, including the hydrogen, which is pulling out of the nutrient system, which causes the system to become more basic. And during this, when it's getting colder, probably in August or September, late September, you'll see you want to make your nutrient system more concentrated. And if you're seeing a general pattern where your pH and EC are balanced from one reading to the next reading, it usually indicates that you hit the optimal nutrient concentration for your plants. And that's the general sense where we all want our hydroponic system to be at. So I hope you found this video helpful. I know that understanding pH and EC is a lot complicated. When you have the right tools, it makes things much easier. And especially when you get more experience from one season to the next season, it becomes secondhand nature, and it becomes actually fun to optimize your hydroponic nutrient system for your plants. So if you found this video helpful, hit the like button. If you want to see more of these videos, hit the subscribe button. I definitely want to put out more videos. And if you have any comments, thoughts, or suggestions, put in the section below. And like always, peace out and happy gardening. Until next time.